Hey, what's up, Scott Balcom here with Imagination Creation Films. And today, well, it is Friday. It's June something, I think the 20s. I don't know, what is it? 26th. Yes, exactly. You know why I know it's the 26th? Because that's the day we're interviewing Eric Kessler from Kessler Crane. Yeah. Whoo. So before we jump in, make sure you subscribe, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And also, feel free to donate any way you want. Patreon, PayPal, Amazon links, whatever, however you want to support the channel. And my internet is being flaky today, so let's hope this goes well because I don't need it to not go well. So without further ado, let's bring up Eric here. Hello, Eric Kessler.
How are you? Hello, Mr. Scott. How are you?
I am fantastic. So tell the world just, a little bit about yourself in case they didn't already know Eric Kessler.
Like a one-sentence definition?
One sentence over 3 paragraphs. Yes.
Redneck from Indiana that likes to tinker around with stuff and build things.
Perfect. That sounds about right. So let's dive in a little bit. So most people will know you from Kessler Crane, but let's go back in time, way back. Let's crank up the old time machine here, and let's figure out when Eric decided Eric wanted to play in the world of creating things and doing things. So when did you start dabbling in building stuff, or what was that for you?
Well, as early as I can remember, I was the kid. I'm sure there's lots of them that had to take everything apart and figure out how it worked rather than playing with it. I can remember starting with building complete like scenes with G.I. Joe toys with live fireworks that would be remote detonated with, rocket detonators and things like that to like just make it come to life. Building card houses with playing cards. I don't know. I just always was tinkering and building things. And that probably comes from my grandfather and my father and my uncle. They're all engineers. And we just built stuff constantly. When I wanted a go-kart, when I was probably, around 10, my dad's like, we're not buying you anything. We're going to go build one. And we always had the equipment, welders and sheet metal shears and all that kind of stuff in the garage. And so we did. And, that's just how I was raised. And when I wanted a boat, not my first boat, but, this is kind of jumping way ahead, but I wanted a wooden Chris Craft style boat. And instead I first went to Marine Survey School down in Chapman in Stuart, Florida. And then when I came back, I built a wooden boat, called it a Kessler Craft. And the name of it was a mahogany boat, so I called it the Mahoganyous Affair. We just built everything. It didn't matter really what it was. And then we did it different and more unique. And most of the time it's stuff that my father wanted or I wanted or grandfather wanted. It was stuff that you couldn't go buy. It was some collaboration of maybe a lot of different things that was always out there, but wasn't put together in the perfect package. And so, we would kind of just make something that we wanted, specifically for ourselves.
So was this like junior high, high school, elementary school? When was this?
So my neighbor growing up owned a mechanic, shop, and right next door was a body shop. And so I was about 12 years old. The neighbor was paying me and my best friend at the time $50 a piece to yank engines for him. And so I was pulling engines, transmissions. That's pretty much all we did. We didn't get into a lot of mechanics. I was 12 years old. Even that, thinking back, is kind of crazy to put 2 12-year-old kids under a car yanking motors. And then we started tearing. And then, as we got a little bit older, 13, 14, he had us, stripping the engines down and helping them rebuild them. So that was fun. I actually took
to work for a chop shop.
It was, kind of, but it was legal, at least as far as I know. As far as I know, it was. We'll put it that way. I mean, but yeah, I mean, so I took more to the guy next door, John DeVoe. He had a body shop, and I just loved like making wrinkled metal straight, and it was a lot more glamorous. I mean, it wasn't glamorous work, but the result was a lot more glamorous than building an engine. And so during high school, we had a co-op program, and I went to work full-time, or not full-time, but part-time at Basney Ford, the local dealership, and met a lot of great bodymen there that had always side jobs going on. Pete Erickson and Dale Miller, those guys, I mean, they were building all kinds of cool hot rods and stuff like that. And so they really brought me up on how to do that. And then I went to Ivy Tech for welding and fabrication and machine, and learned a lot of skills through high school, doing that. Then went to work full time at Basney for about 6 months out of high school. And then I ended up going to work for a national sign company. And they hired me as a fabricator, but they knew that I knew how to paint, and they had one of their painters quit. And so they're like, we're throwing you in the paint shop. And I really, at that time, I had painted so many cars. I was kind of burnt out on it and didn't really want to, but I did it to help them out. And ended up just staying there for several years. And in the meantime, I was also playing paintball. And I always wanted a fully automatic paintball gun. The Tippmann FA was the big one back in the day. And it was like $400 or $500. And this is going back probably pushing 25, 30 years ago. And, I mean, we were doing okay, as a family, but not to be splurging that kind of money on a toy. So I built the first AFS, which was the automatic firing system, which was a bolt-on device that would automate the trigger electronically. And I was making I maybe made 6 of them and handing them out to certain players. And I had no intention of making a business out of it, just like everything else. I just made it because I liked it. And one of those got into the hands of Dennis Tippmann Jr., which was the vice president of Tippmann Pneumatics. And he said, this is pretty cool. He goes, you should, and I was 19 maybe at the time. He said, you should start making these. I'd be happy to, support you on, getting that. And at that time, Tippmann was viewed as more like rental guns. And they, there was a lot of like hot rod guns, or I shouldn't call them guns, paintball markers is the more politically correct term. But they didn't have a lot of accessories and didn't have the buzz around their brand, to customize and kind of build these up, which was half the fun of playing paintball. So in high school, this is kind of rolling back a little bit. This is weird. Because I was hanging around with all these other bodymen that were in their late 30s and 40s, they were all buying property. And, most of my friends were in that age group. They weren't teenagers. I mean, I had my teenage friends, but I was spending more time with, more older adults. And so I thought it'd be cool to own land too. So at 17, I was dating my current wife in high school. And I said, what do you think about us buying some land? And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I want to buy this. I want to buy land. Let's start looking around. So we did. And we found a 3/4 acre plot, nothing big. And so I called up, it was listed, and they're like, yeah, we'll sell it, normal thing. But as a teenager, I had no idea what it takes to buy land. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go see if I can get a loan, because I was doing a lot of side jobs too and was saving money. And I thought maybe I'd have start building my credit and just buy land to start off with, to start prepping for adult life, knowing that was going to be happening in the next year or two. And nobody would loan me money on land. So land, unless you have collateral already, right, they're not. If you have a house on it, they'll loan you money if you got a down payment, but you cannot borrow money on land. So I found out there was a farmer that owned this lot in a subdivision that he developed. So I just went to him, and I think he was asking $16,000. I had about, between Jessica and I, $6,000 saved up. And I said, I'll give you $6,000 down. Well, I told him I'd pay him on land contract, and he just laughed at me. And I said, listen, I'll give you $6,000 down, and I'll have you paid off in 2 years. And if I don't have you paid off in 2 years. You keep all the money I gave you, and you put it back on the market, and you're up at least $6,000 if I don't make you another payment. So he just laughed at me and said, yeah, I'll take that deal. And so now it was on me to figure out how to make the remaining amount of money to, get that done. And so I started hustling, just painting cars, doing fabrication, building boat lifts, trailers, anything I could do to make money on the side. And I think I paid it off it was not much more than a year after that. So we're still, I think it was paid off before I graduated. So then I just said, well, we got to build a house now. And getting the loan to build the house was pretty easy because we had the land as collateral now. So we got a $90,000 loan, and between me and a lot of friends and my wife's grandparents owned an excavation company. So they did our basement digging for us as a gift. The rest of it, we had a lot of hand help, but we just went at it. And before I was graduated, when I moved in the house, we weren't married and come from a Christian, I wouldn't say strict, but a Christian type background where you don't move in with each other until after you're married type of a thing.
Right.
So I started living there while she finished high school, and we got married right out of high school. And then she, obviously moved in, and that's when I had some collateral. And so going back to the Tippmann thing, I was like, yeah, I think this is a pretty cool item. So I went ahead and borrowed every bit of collateral I had out of the house to start building these AFS firing systems. And I was only planning on building a few. And then I sent a sample out. Well, through Dennis Tippmann Jr., he put me in contact with Gino, which owned National Paintball Supply. And he's like, oh, these things are great. We'll sell thousands of them. He goes, put me down for a couple hundred or whatever he said, some large number. So I went ahead and put everything into this. And it took me about 6 months to get the molds made, because what I was building was pretty crude. It worked, but, one-offs off of a manual machine. And so I ramped up. I'm like, well, to do a couple hundred, we got to start injection molding. We got to, we have to scale this up a bit. And I just know that from projects that my grandfather and my father worked on, that I had a good line. I had their mentoring help to tell me what I needed to do, and went through all that. And 6 months later, had several hundred of these things built. And I called up Gino and I said, hey, I got all your products here that you want. And he's like, who are you? No, dead serious. And I'm like, remember like 6 months ago? And he's like, not really. And he's like, well, send me like 10 of them. We'll try them out. I mean, completely acted like he didn't have this conversation with me, and nothing was in writing, nothing, and I'm just a dumb kid that, didn't know any of how the ropes are supposed to be, played, so to speak. And so I sent him his 10, and I remember just being crushed. Like, I put everything into this. I mean, we were sitting pretty good, had a home, didn't have a lot of debt, and I put everything on the line for it. And, then, I was expecting to be, doing quite well. Sell a couple hundred of these things, make some good profit, and start rolling them out after that. So anyhow, over the next few months, I went pretty much door to door. Internet was out, but not the primary way of selling. So it was magazine ads and going to paintball stores. Most of them were mom and pop. This is pre-selling paintball in Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods and places like that. So one by one, I started selling them. And after about 6 months, things started picking up, and Nationals started selling them in larger amounts. And I started coming up with a bunch of other accessories like drop forward air tank mounts and cocking mechanism and different trigger designs and custom bodies for Tippmann guns. And I mean, at one point you could build a complete Tippmann gun out of all aftermarket products that I made and modify. And you would end up with $1,000 version of a Tippmann that normally costs $125. That, was much, to the point where professional, semi-professional, whatever you want to call it, the higher level players were actually using Tippmanns at that point now, because we just went through and took a mass marketed product and refined it to something that was much more precision through all the individual components. And, so that's how that kind of got started. And then that went really well for about 4 years. And then the market started getting really shifty. China started coming in, Mexico started coming in, knocking off products. I mean, I so bold to where I had people sending me emails overseas in Mexico, companies sending me emails with photos of my products already knocked off and saying, hey, you can buy these and put your brand on it, and we won't go out and sell, you know, as a competing brand. They're that bold to do it. And so I started getting scared. I was still young, 23 years old maybe, and got scared. I still had a lot riding on it. And at the time, too, like you could see the market was going down. Video games were taking over. Paintball was expensive. And I think the younger people growing up with video games, that was good enough for them. They weren't getting outside and actually wanting to have 200 mile an hour nickel weighted balls being thrown at them. And I mean, it was painful,
right.
you know, but that was part of the fun, in my opinion. But anyhow, so National was between National and PMI, which was the two big distributors. PMI was out of Chicago and National was out of New Jersey. They were buying up all of the small brands because they wanted to have the monopoly on the market that was left. And so I went ahead and sold out to them, which was a good, I mean, overall, I mean, looking back, it was the right thing to do. Still broke my heart because I was having fun. And
Right.
so that's where that part of my life stopped. But my marketing guy, Jason, was a filmmaker. And while we were going through the transition of selling, we didn't have a lot of work to do, but we had to be at the office to answer phones. He was doing a lot of video editing. This was right in the day of the XL1, and what were we talking about last night? The
Canon XL1, GL2, GL1.
GL2s and stuff like that, the mini DV cams. And I was bored and always looking for something new hobby. And so we started writing a bunch of little stupid short scripts, and I had a lot of fun, you know, shooting those. And he was doing his own TV show, a local TV show at the time called Night Lights, where he was highlighting local privately owned shopping, like, you know, clothing stores, restaurants, art venues, things like that. So it was like a local review type of thing. And that was really taking off for him. But in the meantime, he was like, you know, I need a jib or I need this. And I'm like, I'll just build it. And that's where that got started. And the jib that I built him, which is very similar to what we're still selling today, the original Kessler Crane, he's like, build me 10 more. I'm going to sell these because these are working out great. And at the time, there really wasn't, you know, everything in the industry was built for big cameras. There wasn't a lot for support on the small stuff because that market really hadn't been developed yet. And so I was building them for him, and they were much more crude, and they weren't even black. They were just raw aluminum, but he was selling them on eBay and through his website. And it had gotten to where we were selling, you know, 5 to 10 of these things a week. And it became a good little, you know, I was building them in my pole barn. Me and the retired neighbor where he was helping me, Jack. We just called it for beer and boat money because we lived on a lake. So it paid for our boat gas for the weekend and beer. And, you know, it was just basically, it was a fun side little job that just kind of covered all the fun things that we wanted to do. And it got to the point where Jason's show took off, and, you know, I just kind of took it over and kind of kept growing from there. And once we formed a brand and listened to customers of what they wanted changed and what the next new thing they were trying to do, I just kind of kept rolling with it. And that developed into each product that we have today. At that point, I really wasn't shooting a whole lot. I mean, I have over the years, more for fun and just to stay connected. But it was more or less, I would say at least 80% or more of what we've made was because customers told us that they wanted it and how they wanted it. And if you look at the history of every product, they made lots of changes based off of the feedback that we get, and we listen. And obviously we want to do our job the best that we can. So we just keep changing things according to what people are saying that they want.
Was there a point when, like, you're building them out of your pole barn? I mean, like, just one day you kind of come out and go, I guess we should do this full time. I mean,
well, it wasn't. Yeah. I mean, I kind of already knew. I'll tell you that story too. So I was still working at North American Sign. So I worked at North American prior to paintball. And then I got into paintball full time so I was doing both. And then it got to be where, well, I'm making 3 times as much money doing this. And I was working a full-time job and coming home and packing orders. And I had guys working for me full time while I was working another job. I'm like, I should be here. So finally that clicked. But so I went back to work for at North American Sign for about 2 years. About a year into that 2 years, I started working with Jason, and we were building cranes and doing that kind of stuff and having fun. And I would in North America, the owners there were so great. They supported me 100%. They'd already been through me leaving them once with my own endeavor, and now doing this, getting ready to do it again. But even when I was working there, I was allowed to have the metal delivered to their facility, which was easier because we had forklifts, and I'd hand load it off the forklifts onto my trailer. And they allowed me to use their saws on lunch hour to stay late after work and cut all the metal to size because they had really nice CNC saws. And so I would do all the rough cut work there and then drag all that home and set up and do the welding and the machining and all that kind of stuff myself. So I was doing that. Again, I had Joe and a couple other guys working mostly full time for me at home while I'm off, at North America. And I was at that point still making more money doing the Kessler Crane stuff than I was working at North American, but I liked my job there too. But the choice when I made the choice to leave and do this full time was the day my daughter was born. So I let them know that when my daughter was born, I would not be back. So they knew that in advance and, had plenty of time. So that I figured. And I felt pretty safe about it because I had such a good relationship with them that I knew that if things didn't work out, I could always go back. And I'd be happy to go back. Matter of fact, I ended up going back, not full time, but they just got in a bind several times. So even though I was off doing Kessler, after a year or two, they would call me back to paint a particular sign or do something that was, that they wanted me to do. So that was still fun.
So, Your first product was the original Kessler Crane. What was your second product?
Man, that's going back to 2003.
That's what we do.
It was mostly crane support stuff. So it was probably the K-Pot. Because I remember at the time, the big complaint was the jib is great, but you got to remember at that time, most of the people were just getting into this and they were still like on an amateur level because that's what the DV market was. And to them, a tripod was something they bought at Best Buy, that could not support a crane. And, there were jibs, or I'm sorry, tripods that would support the jib, but they were like $1,000. And I was selling the jib for like $500 or $400, whatever it was. And it was breaking my heart to tell these guys that, they rushed out and spent $400 or $500, which I know to somebody starting out, which most people were that was buying that level of product, that was probably a good chunk of what they could afford to spend. And then to find out that it wouldn't work on, a lightweight set of sticks. So I remember that being a really important thing to me to make a head and a tripod that was strong enough to support a jib that was made specifically for a jib support that was reasonably affordable, but still being built well. So that was the K-Pot. I think at that time, that was version 1. The one we have now, I think, is 3 or 4. It's much nicer. That one is a little bit more basic, the first one, but I think it was like $400, about the price of the jib. So that filled that need that, okay, the jib is great, but if I can't afford a $2,000 Liebeck set of sticks or whatever it was back then, that was the, Millers or that could support that, it kind of defeated the purpose. So I think that was what was next. After that, it was the original pen and tilt head, which was the Revolution head with the Oracle, I think. Because, everybody was wanting, which then turned into a time lapse. One of the first, I think at the time, other than us, because Dynamic wasn't even out then. I think it was that Mumford time machine or something like that, which is more of a scientific type device. So we were the first ones to, I guess, come out with an affordable motion control. Yeah, I mean, there was pan tilt heads out like the PT-20 from Camera Turret. That's what we used to carry. But they didn't do time lapse. They didn't have any other functions in it. And that was still analog. We were able to come up with some clever ways to make it act more like a stepper motor by pulsing out and recording our motor movements. And then so we could record and play back over segments of time and do time lapsing and triggering cameras in between. So we were pretty proud about that. That was big. That was a big deal back then. We called it, man,
I mean, how long ago was that?
Oh, we're talking maybe 2006. So at the time, that was a big deal. You know, now unless it's stepper based or digital servo, then
right.
You know. So yeah, it's come a long way.
So what made you venture off into like the Oracle head? Because that was like outside of normal for, you know, you're building.
So I had experience in the back or in the paintball realm of doing electronics, because we built all kinds of electronic firing systems for paintball markers. So, I mean, I already had the crew that I worked with on those projects in the past that, you know, were rock stars. So, I mean, it was simple in my head of what we had to do. And at that time, we were selling other people's pan and tilt heads, and they weren't junk, but they weren't great either. And I knew how many we were selling. We were selling a boatload. So it's like, well, why don't we just do this, but better? And, you know, at that time, the DSLR was now available and people were doing time lapse. And so, I mean, you can see that we didn't come out with full digital servo right off the bat. I mean, there was a growing phase that we had to learn on how to control motors in a highly specific way as far as precision. But yeah, we started out with the easier stuff like analog and kind of perfected that to the max of its capabilities. And then when we got to the end of the road of what that form of system could do, people were still wanting to do more and have more control and better control. And so that's when I think the first digital system was the Cinedrive. So we went full on. And that's still a great system. It's overkill for a lot of people now. I mean, most people that we see as far as our customer base, I would say the majority are using it more like on the second shooter line, which is just doing interviews, just having a second shooter. You know, that's why we named it that. It does, you know, it does do time lapse and stop motion, and there'll be some other cool features coming on this new one. But it's just doing the day-to-day basic motion controls where the bulk of the market, you know, is needing that to function. So that's when, after having Cinedrive out, we had a lot of people, you know, obviously it was a pretty high ticket item, and they're like, I just want to do parallax shots. So we came out with the parallax device, you know, which we do that manually. Cool. If you got to do parallax for 3 hours, that's not fun sitting there going back and forth, even though it did the parallax effect quite nice. It wasn't. So we automated that, came out with the second shooter, and also that, you know, opened up. So, I mean, the motors in second shooter are the same general motors that are in Cinedrive. It's the control system that's different.
So here's a couple of questions out here. Let's see what happened to the motion control crane?
Well, I'm not going to put anything out that isn't perfect, at least perfect to me. And I'm probably my worst critic. I mean, stuff gets out that isn't perfect that I don't see, but we instantly fix it. But the motion control, I mean, we have one that's perfect, but I don't know it's out there somewhere. You've seen the telescopic jib, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know if somebody can drum that up. There are a couple of videos floating out. I mean, it was basically all harmonic drive, high precision servo control, telescopic jib. I think the reach on it was about 14 feet. It's quiet. It's perfectly smooth, but the thing cost I mean, even for us to produce it would probably be in the neighborhood of just our cost, probably 20 to 30,000. I mean, at each drive, and this thing was like a 6-axis system. Just the gearboxes, the harmonic drives are like $2,000 to $3,000 each. The motors that were driving that, because I wanted it to be perfect. You know, at least $1,500 to $1,800 each motor. I mean, it became more of a personal project just to prove to myself I could do it, and we did it. And it's just, you know, it's one of those things. If we ever released it, it would be probably like a 5 to 10 unit a year type thing, and it's just too risky. As far as like doing a more affordable one, I mean, like, you know, the problem is when you're doing lightweight arms like that, the mid motion is okay. The stops and starts, I don't care. Trust me, we've tried it probably 20 different ways. When you're moving a 15-pound payload, and unless you're running it really slow, and we demoed it at NAB, a couple different versions. If you're running it really slow, it's fine. But I don't want one of these products that has, you know, a very small window of usability. I want something that you can do whatever you want with it. Otherwise, I just don't want to put my name on it. And you know, if it's not going to work, I don't want a guy to go spend the money, get it, and say, well, I can cut this middle section out and use it. Or I'm not saying we won't circle back. We got a really cool idea based off of the Wave, which we'll, you know, talk about on the 15th. But it hasn't been proven yet, but I feel pretty good about it. It's a different way of doing something. So we'll see. I don't want to shoot my mouth off too much until we've actually tried it.
Right.
On paper, it's great.
What's a product that never got made but you wish you had created? That's interesting. That's a hard question to answer, actually.
Well, I mean, man, if you go back in our engineering office, there's a bunch of skeletons hanging on shelves out back. But I mean, we've tried everything from, like, we built this in place of a motor as a counterbalance system that used constant force springs that got to about 95% where I liked it, but it wasn't perfect. So I shelved it, and it didn't feel good. I go a lot by gut feel, and, you know, we'll spend months on a project and I'll just be like, nah, let's trash it. Like, it just, the vibe in the industry, even if we get this right, I don't think that's what people want. And so I'll just pull the plug on. I mean, that's happened at least 20, 30 times on stuff that we put quite a bit of effort in. And once you get your head wrapped around it on how to do it, you know, it takes a little bit of time to do it right. And then in the same time, your ears to the ground with the industry. And it's like, there was a notion that maybe triggered the thought in the industry. And then once you get down it and you're listening throughout the 2 to 3 months of playing around, and then you're like, nah, I don't think people are going to go for this. I don't like it. You know, I thought it was going to be cool, but, you know, just understanding users and I'm playing with it. I'm like, no, I don't want to force something out there and, you know, just not have it be something that people are impressed with. I want to try to keep it to stuff that I know people would actually use.
And we'll dive into the industry here in another segment of this. Let's see here. Oh, Malia says hello, and she loves her second shooter.
Oh, hi, hello, Malia. How are you?
Let's see here. Ali says second shooter is proven more reliable than any human. Saved me a ton. There you go.
Yeah. Robots are good at that.
Cinedrive owner, Jib Pro, Cineslider, 1.5 MT. I'm a big fan of Kessler Crane. There you go.
Thank you.
We've got about 50 people here watching now. If y'all have questions for Eric, just drop them below. We'll try to get to all of them as they make sense in the conversation here, because we'll be jumping all over the place, and we've got some stuff to show and all kinds of good stuff. So we'll just throw them all out there, because once we get moving, and you know how the world works here. So what was it that was there a time that changed the the direction of Kessler Crane, like more than any other? Was there something that happened? I mean, I know the DSLR revolution had a huge impact. Was that the big like ramp for you guys, or what?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was, I mean, we were having fun in the early years, and it was going on in a good clip. We were like doubling in size about every year. And then all of a sudden, when was that? When Vince let Reverie loose?
Yeah, Reverie.
Yeah.
Yep.
That, I mean, just instantly changed the market, like in weeks times. I mean, and all of us, it was like a bubble that was formed. You had industry people that were now taking notice and realizing that, hey, this stuff actually looks decent. Like, we can use this. So you had a lot of them buying in on the DSLR. Then, because it was affordable, you had all those people that maybe always wanted to dabble in video but couldn't afford it because they couldn't, I think the proper cameras back then was like the Vericams and, these big, expensive, not really something you just want to buy without knowing you have a career in it, and when digital editing and all that stuff became very available, you had a lot of people just rushing in, probably with the intent of more on the hobby aspect. And let me just see if I like this, because I think I'd like to make a career out of it. So there was just this huge bubble. Like, I mean, we went, from going at a good steady clip to like people accusing us of drip drop marketing, why our stuff was always out of stock for months at a time, even though we were constantly, I mean, we like tripled or maybe more than that overnight. And we just weren't prepared. We didn't see that coming. And at that time, it was only like Cinovate, us. There's a couple other brands that are now gone. And everybody was experiencing the same. I mean, there was just a huge rush to want to get all this gear. And, we were still at that time, maybe 12, 15 employees at the most. And we just couldn't keep up with it. I mean, so instantly we're hiring people, but I don't want junk going out the door. I mean, I've always been, very protective of maintaining brand quality and making sure, at least doing the best that we can to make sure what we're doing is not going to go out the door incorrectly, because that's only going to, backfire on us into the future. And and I can't sleep at night knowing, I mean, trust me, there has been a few times where we have goofed up. I mean, where we forgot to ship a part or something like that. And these phone calls are horrible. Hey, I'm at a shoot tomorrow and this is in the box. I mean, it happens very rarely, but it happens. And I mean, I try to go way out of my way to make sure that guy's covered, because I mean, I feel horrible. I mean, there's been times I don't even sleep at night because I realize that I ruined this guy's day and his shoot. And I mean, maybe it wasn't me personally, but somebody dropped the ball. We try our best. I mean, it's very rare, but, when we screw up, we really go out of our way to try to make it right with people. So I'm not sure where I think and forgive me, I ramble sometimes as I'm searching through my head for thoughts. Are you still there, Scott? Uh-oh, we lost Scott. I'm not sure if it looks like I'm still live.
So I'm right here.
You're back now.
Yeah, I have to reboot my machine. It just freaked out. So
okay.
Just give it a moment, but let me just do this horrible thing that I should not do.
Hey, Cleve. Hey, Drew.
There I am.
Man, there's a bunch
GoPro.
Hey, Phil Holland, how are you, buddy? Man, I get Preston.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're still there or not. I'm just going through the list while you're doing what you got to do. Hey, Mike.
Can you see me or hear me?
Huh? Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. And rebooting. Okay. Let's see here.
I'm gonna step away 1 second.
Okay. Hold on. Everybody keep going. I'm hoping. There you go. Yep. In the broadcast studio. Yep. There you go. Now can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
God, that was horrible. You get a little weird echo.
Let me fix that. Right there. Okay. I had my machine just completely freaked out on me, and there we go. Now we should be back to normal. Sorry about that. That was
not a problem. Sorry if I look like I'm shivering. This basement. I'm down in our basement, and it's cold. I'm like, it's freezing down here. I'm about ready to crack this door open to get some of this hot, humid air in here.
I'm shivering too, but it's mostly out of complete and total frustration over my internet.
It might be half nerves too for me.
It's all nerves for me. Let's see here. Joel said, thanks for the answer. Holland says, hiya, bud. Preston says, hello, Eric. Let's see.
Love all those guys.
Nick B says, great stuff so far. Can't wait to get my hands on a Second Shooter Pro.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I really think that I think it's the perfect product for. We can go through that when we start talking it more between and what's coming and the type of people based off their usage where they all kind of fit. So nothing really overlaps. I think there's different categories, but we're pretty proud of it. It was fun doing that, and it was nice to work on that project again. We can talk about what's happened in the last 3 to 4 years and why you haven't seen.
I want to get into that. I want to find where my train of thought was for everything, because when everything disappeared, my world just shattered. And for those of you watching, about 2 hours before this live stream, my internet just went, and upload seems to be okay. Download seems to be almost non-existent. So I'm barely hearing Eric. I can see him every once in a while. I think I'm uploading fine. If y'all see the stream and it looks great, just comment down below. But I've been in a sheer panic about this because, I got Eric's time. I want him to not be enshrouded in internet failures.
It's all good.
Yeah, doesn't make it any less stressful. What were we were talking about? Let's see here. Okay. So you worked on a feature with Tom. How did all of that come about? Was that
so Tom was pretty, if not the biggest name in time lapse at the time, as far as relevantly current, and Tom and I became friends, and he was working on Timescapes at the time prior. I was part of that in the later portion of Timescapes, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact timeline. Maybe I was there more towards the beginning. To be honest with you, I don't remember. Somebody like Dustin or Tom himself, I don't know if they're on here or not. They probably remember. But basically, I remember we were developing Cinedrive, and Tom and his crew was so gracious to do a lot of field testing for us. So they had a lot of the prototype stuff, and so maybe it was before, because I remember Tom using the Oracle in the very beginning. At that time, he was using our stuff in Camblock, and helping us out with field testing and critiquing the gear that we were building and giving us insight as to what was needed. And somehow, I don't remember the exact conversation, but we end up participating, as far as helping not only from a gear aspect, but investing in the film, I guess you would say. Or we got the red for him. And helped him out with some other stuff. I can't remember, but it was really fairly low budget, I think, not from the quality of what he was doing, but I mean, it was a very collaborative film. If I remember correctly, most people were, donating time and doing that, so it was more, just helping everybody, everybody was helping each other out to make that film. And it was Tom's vision to do that. And obviously did a wonderful job. And it was a lot of fun. And yeah, we did get to go out and shoot the Tufa with him. And that was with Vince and Tom Gilmet. And man, it was all the guys from back then. Dustin was there. I can't remember everybody that was there. Ben Wiggins, Carson Garner. It was, I think Andrew Walker was there, if I remember correctly. And
Probably.
Yeah. And Mike, I can't remember, man, if we said his name, it's been years since I've talked to some of those guys. Most of them I still stay in contact with, but yeah, it was just a lot of fun. That was the first Time Fest, was that part that we were part of. We did the Time Fest thing. It was just a big meetup of a bunch of time lapsers and just had a lot of fun. Did a lot of shooting. So hands-on, that was the only part that I was of it. And we shot our own little short, a collaborative short. A lot of our guys just threw shots together that was not going to be part of the film just because we had time to burn. So yeah, that was a good time.
So over the years, you've been a big supporter of so many in so many ways in this industry. One of them, you've been a huge supporter of Masters in Motion, which it's a fantastic event, which, well, it was going to be twice a year this year, but then the whole COVID thing. So maybe next year it'll be the 2 times a year, but it's been a phenomenal event I've been to, I think 5 of them now, and I won't miss one now. They're just that good.
They're wonderful. I recommend it to everybody. I think it's been said many times, you're going to get a great experience with the speakers, but it's the collaboration of the attendees, I think, is the most valuable thing. And it's just a fun week. I kind of know a little bit of the story, but I'd love for you to kind of share it with everybody else. How did you get working with John and Christina on the whole Masters of Motion? Well, prior to Masters of Motion, I was always good friends. Kessler was good friends with John and Christina. They're both some of the most awesome people. I just got to say this. Doing the Kessler Crane thing, the most valuable thing to me is the people and the friendships that I've made along the way. That's the best part, hands down, 1,000 times over. But yeah, John and Christina, to be honest with you, I don't even remember. I remember we were shooting in Key West and Christina was recommended, not John. It was a weird, was recommended to me that we hired Christina to do the BTS. And Christina, I had never met her. So I talked to her on the phone, and the person recommended vouched for 100%. So I said, okay. And she's like, but my guy's got to come along with me, John, he'll help out, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's cool. And so we spent a week in Key West with them. And anybody knows John and Christina, if you don't fall in love with those 2 people instantly,
right,
then something's wrong with you. So over that week, obviously a lot of, pretty much sun up to sundown time, and they just instantly became family. They're still family to us. So the whole Masters of Motion thing was 100% their idea. And we, at the time, I think John was doing KU for us, subcontracted. Right. He was running KU, and Christina was doing social media. And she and John had this passion for Masters of Motion, and I was more of a financial contributor, and that was, I would say, the most part. Maybe I gave some influences to something. I don't know. I'll let them say whether I helped out in that way or not. I run my mouth a lot. Whether they listened to anything I said or whether it was worth listening to, I have no idea. But that was all them. If anything, I just helped them out with getting it going financially, and that was just the first year. It's 100% them ever since then. It really was 100% them throughout the whole thing, in my opinion. I mean, we just was always a sponsor, always will be a sponsor as long as that event keeps going. Anything we can do to help those two out. They love the community. They love the industry. They're just great people. And those kind of people, I mean, they're anything I can do to help anybody like that, I'm going to, if it's within my means.
Well, it's like you say, the people that you meet along the way, because that really is, that is the foundation of us as humans to do that, but to meet and be put into situations that allow you to meet the people along the way that are going to become important in your life. That's one of the key things that I love both about Masters of Motion and even you, because you will put me in front of someone else just to chat. Just, oh, hey, here, you talk here. And it's those types of, the people along the way that you meet. And it's always been something that I've, I don't know how to phrase it. I've taken it to heart to model more like that as well, to just, it's not collect people. That sounds so horrible, but it really isn't. It's to build a community of friends that support you and help you along the way. And that's something that I've always appreciated you do ever since I've known you. And
yeah, well, I mean, we all have to realize we can't do everything ourselves. And I mean, a team is the best thing ever. I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And I don't think there's a better feeling in life knowing you don't have a family, even if it's your self-built family of friends that are good to work with, and each other's weaks and strengths, and you pull together as a team and everybody picks up what they're good at. And just, I mean, to me, that's like life security right there. I mean, it's just like, my personal family, and then my extended family, which are my friends and the people that work at Kessler. I mean, they are family to me. I couldn't imagine not having them in my life. I mean, we all pick up where the others can't, and for each other.
Right. And
I just think man, how could you have it any better than knowing that when you can't do something, there's always that one person that can, and you do for that person what they can't, and it just works out. It's great.
Here's a question for you. Oh, also, Matt Weeks says, two of my favorite people right here. Let's see here. Ali.
Oh, hey, Matt. How are you, buddy? Did you get your slider back from your... I just want to see if Matt got his slider back. He had it for 8-10 years, he said. It was like a V1. I think he wanted a fresh up, so we gave it a workover for him. Did you get that, Matt?
Nice. Ali has a question for you. He's our official time observer. No, Matt says he did.
All right, good.
Perfect. So Ollie's question is, what is your favorite piece of work utilizing a Kessler Crane product? And I know that's going to be a tough one. So it doesn't have to be your most favorite if you don't want to, hurt someone's feelings, but what are some of your favorite
You mean
things?
From something that we worked on personally here, or just of anybody out there?
I would say, I think he's actually meaning where that one of your products was used.
Well, one comes to mind, but there's so many that I would rank equally, but I think this one is the most powerful to me. And I hope all in a second, I'm trying to remember 20 years of seeing stuff, but the one that really pops out instantly to me is Khalid when he did Lebanon. I think there was even a piece before that. And the reason why was that was right when we were coming up as a company. And Khalid, which I did not know at the time, I think he just sent me a demo reel. And this is right when sliders were becoming popular. We had the original pocket dolly out at the time. I think he was just out of college, and his Lebanon. I remember Lebanon, but I think there was a piece right before that I think he sent both over there very close in time, and I was just floored by it. So I'm not saying it was. I mean, it's definitely one of the best, but I think it had the most impact on me personally, just because to see that level of shooting being done with my gear for the first time. I mean, it was amazing for me, like on that level. I mean, but I've been blessed with seeing, Henry Junwan Lee. I mean, his stuff is amazing. Vince's stuff is, pretty much anybody on the Kessler shooter team. I mean, that's why we want to work with them, is because they do fabulous work. And there's tons that we don't get to see. These are just people that randomly have crossed paths with me, and I've had a conversation with, and I get to see them on a personal level and know their level of passion and quality of work, and their, I guess, intent in life is pure. And it's infectious on me. And I just instantly have a bit of a bond with that mentality. And it's like, I want this guy in my life or this girl in my life, because they affect me on a positive level. I want to support that and do anything I can. And I guess that's, how I've made the choices of the people that we publicly associate with in that regards. But there's been so many, like, especially through Masters of Motion. Like I said, the Cleat thing, I think, was the most impactful to me, because we were just this little tiny company, and I get this piece over and I watch it. I'm like, that was shot on my gear, because I'm still feeling like I'm just, just this little startup guy. And it's like, man, he made us look like rock stars. It really wasn't our gear as much as it was his talent, but it's like, wow, that's great. I mean, definitely want more of that being shown.
We got Dustin. He's out here.
Yeah, Dustin's another. I mean, man, there's so many. I mean, Eric Hines, Dustin.
Eric.
I feel like I can't even, without going through a list, I have to go through my chat on my private chats on Facebook just to get all the people I talk to on a regular. And the Diamond Brothers, they've done. Yep. I mean, just everybody. I mean, and just the personal time with these people are amazing. And
okay, well, we'll mix this up a little bit here. I'm going to give you an option and let you decide where we go for the. Do you want to talk about Second Shooter Pro? Do you want to talk about the industry, or do you want to do a lightning round of questions?
Let's do questions. Those are always fun.
I knew you were going to say that.
What do you want?
Okay.
How about you?
If y'all have questions, let's get a lightning round in.
Right. How about that? First person that says where we go.
Was that?
I said just let whoever's watching say where we go next.
Okay. So let's do some questions. Let's do some fast lightning round questions. People, put your questions down there. Anything and everything. Be respectful, of course, obviously. But yeah, let's get some lightning rounds stuff going in here. There's lots of questions about Second Shooter Pro, but we'll save those here.
If we got things to do, we can answer those questions now. I don't want to hold.
What's that?
I don't want to hold people up if they're waiting.
Oh,
to get
no. Yeah. We'll let's talk a little bit about, let everybody seal up their questions here. And because it takes a little bit of time to get them all to roll through. Let's talk about Second Shooter Pro here we go. Here they come. Here they all come through. Okay. Well, now we got the questions coming in. Okay. So I'll start popping these questions. Everybody else, put your questions in there. There's 50 of you out there. Let's get some good questions here. So grip tips, Dave Donaldson wants to know, pimp your production, film right, coming soon.
Maybe if Ryan ever calls me back. So he's been promising me 2 weeks to be discussing this. So I'm going to throw that at him lovingly. No, he's busy right now. I hope so. I think he's keen for it. Hasn't been discussed in great detail, but those things are so much fun. So I want to say yeah. I know it's yeah on my end. So we just got to wait for Ryan to say yes. So anybody that really wants it done, start, barking up his tree and tell him he's got to do it.
There you go. Everybody out there, make sure you comment on one of Ryan's videos nicely. That he needs
be
to.
nice to Ryan. He's an awesome guy.
Ryan is first class people for sure.
He is.
Okay. This is a good one. Basically, he's asking about a Fisher Dollar from Kessler, a Fisher Dolly type from Kessler.
That's not on our. I mean, no. I mean, I won't want to say we won't. We have this year slated out with quite a few things. You guys are going to start seeing at least 4, hopefully 4 products before the end of the year out that are fairly substantial, not just little add-on type pieces, but let's see, 1, 2, 5, probably 5 by the end of the year that we feel are. I think the 15th is going to be at least my favorite. They're all going to be substantial products. I guess my personal baby, I guess you would say, is the 15th. So we'll know about that soon. In a couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting from Malia. Do you think you'll ever get into gimbals or stabilization?
No. Too many friends in the industry doing it. I'm not going to. No, they're doing it great. I don't. The only way I'd even consider is if I really felt there was something substantial that I could do that was better. And even if I did, I'd probably just go to them with that idea because like the free fly guys, they're awesome. I mean, I don't want to let them do their thing. I mean, if I happen to come up with an idea, which I haven't, but if there was something that I felt that can contribute, I would just probably call Tab and just say, hey, why don't you do this? And if he thought it was awesome, he'd probably do it, but that hasn't happened. And so, no, I mean, why? I don't know how it could be much better than what they're doing.
Right.
So, why get into that space?
Will there be a new version of the product that kicked it all off, the Kessler Crane?
Probably not. Cranes aren't selling great. They're a stable product, but most people, what we've learned, when we first came out with that was like the first way. So when the whole digital market came in, everybody was locked down, right? They all locked down shots because most of the jibs are Jimmy Jibs and Johnny Jibs and whatever else was out there. These big jibs made for beta cams and larger cameras. That was outside the price point and way overkill for what they needed. So when that market was developing and we did the small jib, the Kessler Crane, it was affordable and it was the first way to move your camera other than a tripod, just panning and tilting. I remember when I got into it, just having a true fluid head, not a photographer's head, was like amazing. Wow, I can actually pan my camera and it looks smooth, rather than this photography head that was not meant to move the camera. It was meant to just lock down. So that was a big deal. And if you look at all the waves, so the first wave was jibs, right? And you come out with a jib and people get excited and they overuse it, and that's fine. But you start seeing all these jib reels, then it was sliders, then I don't know how many people rode through these waves, but then everybody's demo reel was nothing but slider shots. And then it was time lapse, and then it was drones, and then it was Movi shots. And now it's getting back to what it should be. I mean, camera motion should be part of telling your story, a spice to your film shooting. Should be used, but I mean, I get it. People get excited. I did the same thing. I mean, when I could shoot time lapse out in my backyard, shooting time lapses of stupidest things you can think of, snow melting and ants building a little mound or whatever. It was just fun. And it was a new way of seeing something, high speed. I don't know where that question started. I'm sorry. I ramble again, but
well, yeah, it was about the original Crane. Will there be another one?
Oh, again, so yeah, going back to the volumes, just not there. And again, I mean, it's a balanced stick on a tripod that moves your camera up and down. I mean, put a Movi on it, put one of our heads on it. You know, really other than building maybe a bigger, stronger jib, but, you know, again, cameras are getting smaller. I just don't see putting our efforts into that anytime soon. If we see all of a sudden somebody brings us a need that we feel is in our wheelhouse to correct or to produce, then yeah, we jump back on that in a heartbeat. But right now we just, you know, no one's calling us up, hey, make your jib do this. Hey, do that with the jib. Do this with the jib. If somebody was calling us up doing that, we'd jump all over it. But, you know, pretty much jibs are kind of stabilized, and between us and whatever else is out there, between like the Pocket Jib Pro is probably our best selling jib right now. And, you know, we're probably still, I mean, we're doing, I don't know, several hundred a year, but it's not, you know, at one point when the jibs were at their peak, we were doing a couple thousand a year.
Well, I think the Pocket Jib Pro is like the perfect natural progression of the original Kessler Crane.
It is the best all-around jib that we, you know, I mean, obviously we have like the KC-12 and the 18 for, you know, higher heights and bigger swings and things like that. But again, people don't like setting up equipment. We hear it all the time. Like, I need to get on a job and be shooting in 25 minutes. Well, you're not going to do that with a KC-18. You know, that's a half an hour to 45-minute build minimum. Pocket Jib Pro, slide out of a bag, slide it, you know, you're up in 5 minutes, you know, and that's why people buy it. You know, that's why we used to build full-size dollies. As soon as the slider came out, nobody bought dollies anymore, at least not in numbers, because like, well, I only need a foot or 2 or 3 feet of movement, and it's on a set of sticks in a minute with a quick release, and I can tear it back down a couple minutes later. So most people, I'm not saying all people, but most of our customers are looking, I want to be out of my truck and rolling within a half an hour. You know what I mean? Like that's the mentality of most of our customers. So we have to build product that fits, you know, within those requirements.
Right. Okay. Can you give a hint, or will you give a hint on new products coming out?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you ask the right questions.
All right, you can try to ask the right question. There you go. L. Cooper says, will your motion controllers adapt for open source rigs?
When you say open source, are you talking like Arduino based stuff? Is that what that person is? I can't see who's asking the question.
L. Cooper is asking it. It should be on your main screen down at the bottom. I pop them.
No, it's not. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you asking?
And he says, yeah, it's Arduino.
Arduino? No, Arduino's open source. So a lot of our code is very specific to why our motion control works as well as it does. Arduino is all stepper, which there's huge flaws in stepper. Do they do the job? Yeah, they don't do it great. Do they do it adequate enough? I mean, yeah, people use it. They still get decent shots. But since day one, we're doing full closed loop servo. So it's DC motor with a high precision encoder. We have 80,000 points of control per motor revolution, then times that by up to 500 with a gear reduction. So it means, your camera's rotation can be controlled down to 1/80th or 1/80,000th of a rotation, which is the amount of control is phenomenal on it. Stepper has a lot of problems. If you take any stepper system, unless they're putting a secondary encoder, which as far as I know, most do not, you're just pulsing out, telling the motor to take a step. And as long as it takes that step, you're fairly accurate, although the resolution is quite coarse. But if you hold it from moving and it's still sending out steps and it doesn't make the steps, it doesn't know that it didn't make the steps. So it has no correction. It has no fault reporting. It's good for most things as long as nothing interferes or weight load doesn't change to the point where it affects the steps, things like that, it will work. But the equipment we build, or guys that are trying to do vertical stuff up in mountains, they have to have it work. And if it doesn't work, they need to be notified it doesn't work, so that way they didn't waste 4 hours waiting to go back and look at their footage and find out that it didn't work. If there's a fault for some reason, we have, fault reporting. If they overpower a motor, which our stuff is very difficult to overpower, we're quite overmotored. It will tell you instantly. So if you're 2 seconds into a time lapse, it doesn't just keep going and you walk away and you don't know that you come back 4 hours later and find out that it didn't actually happen. You'll get an update that from us that, hey, you got a problem. Here's your problem. We give all that reporting back to the user. And it's just coming with the caliber of people that we worked with, like Tom Lowe and stuff like that, that kind of stuff is important. And it's the same control system that's used in CNC machines and other high precision equipment. Stepper motors are great hobby level type of stuff. And like I said, they work, but they're they have their faults, and they're much cheaper. They're, with the open source stuff, Arduino is very affordable. But again, coming back to why we're not doing open source is because our code is very specific, and it's taking, we're probably got to be at a $2 to $3 million investment in our code. And just to throw that out there for a Chinese manufacturer to be able to download our code and slap it into a knockoff and have it perform just as well as ours, because I would say a good majority of why our systems work well is our code. It's also mechanical build, but as soon as we put that code out there, anybody that can do a good mechanical build now has both sides of the coin. Now we are going to release an SDK, which will allow people to write their own control software for our systems. So that will be coming out this year. So you'll have control over doing, other things outside of Chaos software or our apps. You'll be able to write your own software. And there's a lot of guys that like to do that kind of stuff. But as far as Arduino now, we're staying away from that.
Question here from Luca. Support Dragon Frame in the CineDrive?
Yeah. No. June 15th. See if you ask the right questions. June 15th, yes, it'll be supported.
July 15th.
Sorry, July 15th, yes.
And I think you answered it with Gray Media. Any chance the Tilt or other third-party Fizz motors will be supported? Most likely because
possibly that one, yeah. That's not open source. That's just protocol. That actually just got brought up by one of our in-house guys. He's like, "Hey, is there any way I can throw my tilter motors on this?" And those are probably, and I haven't tore it apart or reached out to them yet to find out if they're DC encoded motors, but I believe they are. If that's the case, yeah, we just got to change the firmware slightly and create a motor driver profile that talks nice with their encoder. And once we know their encoder counts, then yeah, we should be able to do that kind of stuff. Start opening up to third-party motors and stuff, as long as they're on a DC servo platform. Yeah.
Cool. Oops. Why does it keep doing that? Okay.
Oh, hey, Chris.
Loving the Kill Shock. Yeah, Kill Shock is a sweet thing.
Yeah, Mike did a great job on that. That's all Mike.
Yeah. Let's see here. This kind of goes with, yeah, tell us about this ripple and wave thing that you've got going.
Well, I just want to let people, because I didn't want them to think this, not that Second Shooter Pro isn't awesome. And like I said, for the right group of people, I think it is 100% awesome. I think actually for the majority, based off of our feedback, will cover most of what people would use. The wave, that's the July 15th thing, is my personal, the one I'm most excited about over what we're doing this year. And I call it the check every box product. Based off of years of hearing requests and being compiled, I believe checked every box. it's a different price point. It's a different category of product. It's not going to be for everybody, but I'm very proud of it. And I think, just like guy, does it do Dragonframe? Yes, it does. It does. Pretty much anything you ask, unless you ask something that hasn't been asked in the last 8 to 10 years. Yes, it does. Just put it that way. Yes, it does.
That is a wave. Let's see here. Can we expect new products with different applications of MoCo than we've seen previously?
Yeah, that'll be more towards the end of the year. But yeah, that's the one I was talking about based off of the July 15th stuff that we've done. It hasn't been proven yet, but that'll be a 2021 type thing that we're looking at. We have a lot of ideas, a lot of whiteboard sketches and that type of thing. Very exploratory. Feel it can be done, but I've also learned from many years of doing this that just because it looks good on paper and seems logical, when you get into physics, sometimes it doesn't work out. So, but we're definitely going to have fun trying.
Sutton wants to know, will some of the new things have third-party interoperation?
Well, what does he mean by that exactly? Mike, what do you mean by that exactly? Can you be more specific?
Clarify, Mike. Let's see here. Anything with Unreal Engine in the works?
No. I mean, they can like mapping and that type of thing. Is that, I mean, for...
I'm assuming is to program everything in. I mean, honestly, it's all tracked based upon the cameras. I don't know that it needs it.
No, yeah, because you're just going to, I mean, we can help with encoder output data for like mapping. Yeah, that will be done. So we can give the trajectory of every motor. So like when you're doing compositing work or anything like that, yeah, that will be supported.
All right. Let's see here.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Great. Appreciate your answer there. Whoops. Hopefully, didn't just get, okay, good. Okay, it says L. Cooper says the encoders in Unreal Engine 4 is needed, especially for focus.
Okay. Well, I'll just say I'm not quite sure if I'm wrapping my head around. I mean, encoder data, is he encoder to... Okay, well, we can give you encoder data. So I think that's what he's asking.
Okay. You can basically share. You can share your information outward so they can use it.
Right. So it'll give them the trajectory of the motors so that when they're layering in composites or, virtual set type stuff, that will all sync.
And he says, yes, that.
Okay. Great. Got it. Yes.
So let's talk about the ripple here. So you've got this new product that you...
Yeah, well, so it's a ripple, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty cool, but it's really just kind of polishing up and giving some new features to a current product. It's not a whole new product. It's just a further refined version of what we've had for 5 years, and added the PS4 control, the iPhone app, the extended Wi-Fi range, and a new chip there, or the new components that went into that board. So 200 plus range. I think the actual spec sheet on it's 300 feet, but we're saying 200 just to be safe. It's been tested out to near 300 unobstructed. With good reliability, but 200 pretty much rock solid inside of a steel building, going through walls and that type of thing. So we're pretty good there. Where that's beneficial is that by piping your Bluetooth PS4 or Xbox controller through your phone, you're piggybacking off of its Wi-Fi, and it's all done automatically through the app. You just click on the once you've paired you've done it. So yeah, you just pair your PS4 to your phone, and we will have Android. We're hoping within a month. Really, the two things that are holding up the actual shipping, the physical pros, as you can see, Scott has one. They're all built. We're waiting for packaging. COVID hold up there. So packaging and the app has not been submitted to the App Store yet, but you have the developer version of it, and it's, what would you say, 98, 97%?
It's really close.
Yeah, there's a couple little it's not that it doesn't work, just like weird screen things with, so Bruce is working on that. Hopefully by Monday it'll be cleaned up. And as soon as the app and the packaging gets here, which will be before the 10th, we can start shipping. And anybody that really wants one, doesn't care about the app not working right now. Well, it's not that this isn't working, but not available. In the packaging that it comes in, you can always call Tim or Jason and just say, just ship it now, and we can do that. And you'll get the app in another week and a half or so.
So as we have just a second shooter back here, a pan and tilt and slide, and we have the right over here. We have the app right here, and we can demo a few things. But one of the coolest things, honestly, is the
PS4. Yeah, it's nice.
PlayStation controller,
and you can go 200 feet away because you're sending through your phone or your Android device soon.
So you can just set up your shot, shoot it across, all with the PlayStation controller.
And the PS4 controller is completely customizable through the app we give you the defaults based off of a lot of people using it, what they feel is a collaborative default settings. But you can go in and change anything to do whatever you want. So you have a series of buttons. I don't know, Scott, can you bring up on the app the PS4 layout? If you just click on that PS4 in the bottom right. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah. So you have all your buttons on the left and then what actions on the right. So you just go through and assign.
Choose the option you want and select the button you want, and away you go.
Yep.
The other cool thing of this app is you have like multiple keyframes now. So I just assigned a keyframe right there.
Or you can just hit X on your controller as well. So
let's see about that. Let's set up a little keyframe right there. And then set up number 2. And now, you can have 10 keyframes on your phone easily.
Yep. Then press and hold to bring up on a keyframe, and then I'll let you go to, and then it'll run right over to whatever keyframe that you want it to. So we're going to make it to where on the release, you just tap whatever keyframe and it'll go to it, and then push and hold to bring up the menu to delete keyframe, delete all keyframes. I'm trying to go off memory, replace keyframe. So it gives you a full menu there.
So yeah, this is it's super slick, and this being able to set up your shots really fast. And
you'll be able to do almost every action right through the controller. If you prefer to do it that way, so you can just keep your phone in your back pocket. And
all the functions are more advanced than just on the controller. The controller still has the simple to use interface, right, but now you can take it to the next level.
Yeah. So the reason why we did the whole controller thing, well, there's a lot of reasons. I'll go over the architecture of second shooter and why we still like it. And July 15th will be completely different to cater the people that don't identify with this format. But we like it because it's all modular. So your tilt can come off, turn your pan into a turntable. It's more of like an erector set type thought process. And then also having an onboard control means that PS4 controllers are great. iPhone apps are great. We got Chaos for iPad and Mac and PC, but what if you don't have any of that? All you have is, the controller. So you have onboard, it might be a little bit more clunky than using an app or a PS4 controller, but you can still, as a backup, as long as you have power for your system, you can still program a move. And I think we've done a good job of making that pretty simple.
Yeah, it is really simple on here. I'm just kind of demoing here with there's a pan
And it's
tilt
conversational.
right
It walks you through every step. You program a move. It tells you how many keyframes. You mark that out. Move to keyframe 1, hit enter, 2, 3, enter. Now you want to play it back as either time lapse, live motion, or stop motion. It just walks you through the whole process.
I have poorly laid this out.
The biggest complaint is all the wires, which we get it, and that's where different product lines will take care of that. But the benefit is when new controllers come out, you just change out the controller like you're doing right now. Also, you can run segmented devices, and you can loom your wiring to clean it up. But now if you want to turn your pan and tilt into a turntable, you can. I think you are the best example, or one of the best between you and Mike, of configuring all kinds of crazy monstrosities of robotic motion and it will build out to 6-axis by bridging two controllers together. So it's more of a, I guess, flexible, build your own kind of MoCo system platform, as to where other platforms coming out will be more specific, but fits a very specific part in the market.
Yeah, Sutton takes it to an extreme
Mike
level.
takes everything extreme.
Well, I've really enjoyed. I mean, I can just take any of these parts and say, I want a new axis. Let me screw around with it. Kessler is not the limitation. My imagination is the limitation. That feels like a child's toy commercial, but I mean, it's the truth. You can just kind of mess around with all day long. Oh, there's questions coming in here. Let's see here. Okay, so somebody asked about Android, and you said that already. Payload. You want to comment on payload on this?
On second shooters, 10 pounds.
And then Tim says, hi, hey.
Hey, Timmy.
And then he says, that's me.
Everybody loves Timmy.
Oh, yeah. Tim's great. Does anybody ever read my customer support comments? I would love to know.
What do you mean?
Somebody has to.
Us? Or what do you
so every time you put in a ticket, afterwards you'll get a brief little survey and then put in comments. So I have over the years written some extraordinarily weird things in there.
I can only imagine coming from you, Scott. I don't read those. I think Tim and Chris were the ones that would review those.
I've always just kind of laughed to myself.
Well, I can only imagine. I wish I was included on reading those.
Sutton says the whole thing is worth it for the Limo 2-pin power alone. This is true. This thing right here, mine's on order. I have to wait for it to come in. Thank you, COVID. You got a locking mechanism.
Yep. Well, that was another complaint. Obviously with the barrel connector, we put the little strain relief in the bottom, but people are in a hurry. They don't use it, or it gets broke off, or whatever happens in gear. And so we knew that was,
right.
So we knew that was a improvement that people wanted to see, was a locking, and things are going Limo now, and now you can just run a D-tap off of it, or you can run the Mag Pack or the Mag Max or whatever you want. We just want to make power easily available.
Malia is asking if there's new hardware or a firmware update you can make to your second shooter. So you only need to update and get a controller, because it works.
It's a new board. So the pan and tilt and slide motors currently are the same. So it works with, it's just a new controller.
Ollie was asking, what did you think of Scott's shuttle dolly truck sliding idea? We actually talked about that yesterday. They implemented it.
Which one now? So what did you think about
sliding the trucks in to make them more compact?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we put it to use. We put it in our product. I don't understand the question. Eric, what do you think?
I think it was
a great idea. That's why we did it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, Chris Reyes, have you thought about adding cable name tags so it's quicker process for the new first-time user? And Tim says sticker labels for your cables that say slider come with the controller.
Yeah, it comes with the controller.
Let's see here. Can pan tilt slider systems be purchased without the controller? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Ollie says wireless, you say? Well, it's always been, I mean, the Second Shooter Plus has always been Wi-Fi, but this has a nice antenna with a much more powerful.
Yeah, the other was an internal on chip antenna, which maybe 100 feet max, and maybe a little flaky. I mean, anytime you were inside of 50 feet, I would say most likely in clear line of sight was a good, reliable. I mean, we never heard complaints about most, if any. I don't get all the tech calls, but it wasn't really an issue. It's just we wanted a more reliable, more robust Wi-Fi system. And especially when we started working on this was when Mark Pedersen came and visited. I think it was in January.
Right.
And we were looking to him for advice about what's going on in the industry. And he's an awesome person and also a great resource on the heartbeat of the industry and where things are going. And so we were compiling a list of what we wanted to do. And at the time, I don't remember exactly if the COVID thing had even really been announced, but I know in the early part of this it was. And we're like, well, people are going to need to distance more. And so we should probably, increase the Wi-Fi capability to get further distancing more reliable. So going with this chipset and external antenna allows us, like I said, it's 100% reliable at 200 feet. That's been proven. According to the manufacturer spec, 300 feet, I'm assuming that's in perfect conditions.
Right.
So, we don't try to overrate our stuff. We want to give people numbers that they can rely on. I'm sure you can push it out to 300 in certain situations, but we'll just say 200 feet is reliable in most situations.
And Legal Presentation Solutions LLC, which is an odd YouTube channel for for film, but yay, welcome. Can I replace my original Second Shooter with Second Shooter Pro? In other words, will it work with all the original sliders and motors? That's yes, right?
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yes, it will.
Because I know, because I haven't bought anything new.
Yeah, and as far if you already have a Second Shooter, keep it, because now just use your bridge cable, and now you have a 6-axis system. So
that's true.
Or you have a backup controller, so it's highly unlikely it would fail on its own, but you never know when an accident might happen, get crushed or whatever. Now you have a second controller, so I would hang on to it.
Use the expansion port on the Second Shooter or the
They'll
Second Shooter Plus, and plug it right on in. I mean, that was kind of the advantage when I went to the Second Shooter Plus, was that now my Second Shooter became my extra controller for the extra axis. It was beautiful. Right. Let's see here. Eric says, I always thought of it as Connects for filmmakers. Talking about
I mean, it's kind of what it is. It's like an erector set. And, Mike and I have had a lot of conversations that we're different people. And that's when I came up with that system 5-6 years ago, I wanted it to be as modular as possible so I could do whatever I wanted with it. I really thought that was a benefit. I mean, I think to some people it is. To other people, it's like, I want this all in one, clean, So it's just different type of people and different types of uses where you see the value in it.
Tim says that he does read those comments. There you go. Dave wants to know, what's the longest slider you've ever wanted to make and why?
Well,
50 feet?
Tom, I think we've had, and maybe if Tim's listening, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Tom I think he was working on a film with Godfrey, I think. And they did, man, Dustin, if he's out there, he might know more. I want to say it was like 50 plus, maybe 100 feet. And we've had a couple other customers do. Now that was using either shuttle dolly or shuttle pod rail system.
I think didn't Sutton did one that was like 32 or 40 feet long?
Yeah, his was on a shuttle pod mini, if I remember correctly. It was long, but I think the longest that I know of a customer doing was either the Tom Lowe, and I have a feeling maybe, I know it wasn't somebody I worked directly with, but maybe Tim did on, I want to say it was over 50 and maybe even pushing 100 feet long. I know it's something ridiculous.
L. Cooper says, just to clarify, I can operate the pan tilt slider system and be able to control it with the app only. Correct.
Oh, no. He says no need for that controller on the table. No,
so he doesn't want
you still.
Yeah, the controller could mount to the unit, and you could sit off from the distance.
Right.
And control it.
Yeah, you can be 200 feet away with your app or your phone, and still control it. Yes, correct. If that's
so, the beauty of that is you could mount it up high if you want some odd overhead shot, but you'd be sitting down.
But he's saying here, no need for that controller on the table. No, you still need that controller. There's just that controller would be mounted. Right. Yeah, it would be mounted within 6 feet of. Yeah. So what Scott's showing in his hand, you need that mounted there. Then your phone will talk to that from 200 feet away.
So there's no cable here from the phone. The phone is just right there. This controller that's here is just for this pan and tilt that's sitting right here. This one up here is off on its own. It's not connected in any way, just the phone and the PlayStation adapter, which is so much fun. Let's see here. Oops. Let's see. Sutton says, plus the antenna, you can do a DIY SMA boost antenna if you need over 200 feet range. There you go. Oh, yeah, because it's a screw-on threaded. Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Chris Ray was asking about the ripple before the wave. What does that mean? Or how big of a wave should we expect? Oh, I like that question. How big of a wave should we expect?
It's subjective. For me, it's a huge wave as far as, like I said, I feel like it's the check every box product for a lot of people. I don't know. We're just really proud. We broke through a lot of things that we've been meaning to do for a lot of years, and it's all coming into one product. And to us, and it's also just, when we say the wave, it's more of a metaphor for everything else that's going to come behind it. So like I said, we have 5 other things already in process, some near to completion than others, but all doable, all been proven in proof of concept form. So we're going to be rolling stuff out, like I said, probably every 2 months on average, there'll be a new something that will be, I think, fairly exciting for most people.
All right. Sutton was saying it was 32 feet for his, and he was a customer at the time. Yep. How did you guys come up with the MagLink system? He thinks it's so cool.
Man. So that was I think we started with Second Shooter. I don't know. Magnets were kind of starting to pop up like on packaging, and I don't know. I just love magnets. Like, you don't have to even press a button to release it, and rare earth magnets or neodymium or whatever they call it now, it's available. And I'm like, I just want to grab it, use it, and I just want to kind of roughly throw it in the general area and it just stick. So that's kind of where that came from.
Ollie wants to know, is high speed an area you've been working on?
July 15th.
L. Cooper, here you go, loaded question. So should I hold off on a slider pan tilt purchase until July 15th?
That's a hard question because it depends on if I knew more about what you were wanting to do, I could answer that. Specifically, like if I knew what jobs you expect to perform with the product, I could tell you to either wait or the Pro is the better choice. I mean, they're two. There's little overlap between the two. I think it's two different caliber of products. Again, it's, do you buy a dump truck or a sports car? It's like or a pickup, right? I mean, it's really like what would be the right tool for what you're trying to achieve. And there's, like I said, there's very little overlap. I think the Pro is a great product for probably the majority of people looking at motion control, but if you're just looking for a second shooter, that's what it is. And I think it does it quite well. If you're looking for more advanced operations, and then maybe wait.
Yeah, that's a very fair statement there. DeGray says, this looks like the perfect solution for a wireless beer delivery system.
Yeah, it is.
A nice 50-foot long bar with a 50-foot long
build it
dolly.
Let me know the address.
You get 10 keyframes, so you can drop off to 10 customers.
And if you have more customers, you can probably call us and we can add more keyframes. We're just trying to keep it realistic and simple, especially on that platform. We don't want to, most people don't need more than 10 keyframes. I get it for some people, they want 100. But
L. Cooper, I'm not sure what you're asking. What's the monthly on the July 15th product?
I'm assuming he's asking release date.
I don't know. L. Cooper, can you elaborate on your question, please? So I've been playing with the Second Shooter Pro here for a little while, and it's really cool. It really does take Second Shooter to a next level.
It is a next level. Yeah. It really maximizes that product out on.
And it definitely it solves a few problems that they're not problems, they're just inherent limitations of the existing system. When you start branching out, this really solved quite a few things for me. I'm really excited. Okay, he's asking price range, monthly payment.
It's not going to be that bad. I'll put it that way.
Do you have a range you want to say or don't want to say, or you don't have to?
Yeah. Let me think about.
Yeah, don't.
I'll say so. Yeah, sub 3,000.
There you go. And then he winks at you. I'm assuming for the price there. Okay. So where do you think, well, that's a tough question. Where do you think the industry is heading right now?
Well, a broad answer, I really am having a hard time knowing until the industry opens back up again and we get to see how it's going to roll going forward. I do know that this whole we've been contacted by, red carpet people and a lot of, in the field kind of shooters where they're telling us about restrictions, how many crew members they can have, distances they have to keep. So I don't know if that's going to stick around for a long time or not. I know at least in probably the next 3 to 6 months, it's probably going to be rules that they have to work with. So it's going to definitely hurt as far as the production quality with having small crews. It's going to restrict the type of shots they would normally try to go after. I'm assuming just a lack of crew and a lack of, being able to engage with people and things like, I think it's going to be crippled. at least in the short term. I'd like to think, provided that the COVID subsides, which I don't follow it really close, so I don't know. I'm hearing things are spiking again, but I don't know if it's a real spike or it's just because of more testing. It looks like a spike. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. If people think that there's more risk, they're going to continue to operate with more restriction. So until the risk goes away, I think things are going to be restricted. So it's going to be odd. I'm getting some good insight talking with people about what they have to do. I don't know that we should conform products 100, although July 15th does quite a bit of stuff that will help them out. But I don't know how long that's going to last. So I don't know that from a manufacturer standpoint, we should go way out of our way to create a very niche thing to the situation when, maybe the end of the year, this is behind us, and we're moving back into normal or previous near normal or new normal, however you want to word it. But so I don't think anybody has enough grasp on data to really know exactly. We've seen a big shift in the industry probably around 2015 where the bubble, what I say, burst. Like I said, going back to that whole bubble DSLR thing, I think a lot of people, both shifting from current industry people switching over to digital, an influx of a lot of people either from the hobby aspect or I want to make a career out of this, and then finding out that there was more people trying to do this than there was jobs. So I think, in my opinion, things have gotten to a baseline of what it was prior to 2008 roughly, when the DSLR thing really
somewhere right around there.
Yeah, so if you look at the numbers, the industry is maybe slightly larger than 2008, but not drastically, I don't think. I'd have to go back and review that. But, there was a time where, everybody wanted to get it. It was look at drones. I had friends that had no care about this industry whatsoever buying drones, just because it was cool to them. And as soon as they crashed one or two, they lost interest very quick because they weren't making a living with it. It was costing them a lot of money. So they got it out of their system. They moved on to whatever their next new adventure is. But yeah, I think our industry right now is kind of what it was prior to 2008 is in terms of the amount of people. Like I said, maybe slightly more because the demand for media has gotten bigger, but I don't think it's drastically larger, not as big as what the bubble was anyhow.
Dave wants to know, is that a barrel behind you?
Yeah, we got lots of barrels out here. This is the lodge. We got whiskey barrels and beer barrels. The tone of this place, this is all Amish built, post and peg built house from the 60s. It was the first solar powered house in Indiana. The lady who built this was an environmentalist, lived to 108 years old, never ate sugar, at least the stories that I'm being told. I guess she was quite the legacy or had quite the, Edith, everybody knew Edith around this area. She was quite the wonderful woman from what the stories that I've heard.
Just so you're aware, we're an hour and 48 minutes in. And I know
I'm still good to go, but I wouldn't mind taking about a 2-minute break.
Go ahead.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah. Feel free. So if anybody has questions about the Second Shooter Pro, I can happily walk through anything here. If anybody wants to do it, there will be some much better, more detailed videos coming out. But I'm happy to answer any of those questions. Also, if you have any questions for Eric, of anything, just drop them down below. He's kind of an open book. He has to limit some things, business related or confidentiality kind of stuff. But other than that, you can tell he's a pretty open and free, fun-loving guy. Just feel free to drop those questions down below. There's quite a few of you out here. I'm so glad my internet has not dropped, knock on wood, since then. But let's see. Oh, hey, Chris. How are you? How you doing? How's LA? Then let's see here. What else? So far, everything I've found about the Second Shooter Pro is it's Second Shooter Plus, more refined in every possible way. It's the next next way you would think they would go for the Second Shooter Pro or Second Shooter Plus to the Pro. And I really do love the app. The app is really going to be useful for a lot of people. Also, PlayStation 4. Who doesn't love PlayStation 4? I've been having a lot of fun, and I could definitely see some fun uses with it. Interesting. Good question. How do you do it? Having such a nice setup, can you come build one for me? Well, I can. Do you have room? Because I mean, this is a big room. This is all a set. This wall is a set. The sun, I mean, I can just turn the sun right off or turn the sun right back on. So, I mean, everything about Scott is fake. That's yeah, but I mean, you gotta have the room for it. So Luca asks, that's
it's getting blown out.
Yeah. Well, put your hand over the webcam for a second and pull it back, and I think it'll reset your brightness. Everybody grab his fingerprints. Now you can log on. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that helped. Luca wants to know a Kessler Crane Shuttle Dolly Mark II, maybe for holding 2 operators. Interesting.
It can. I mean, we wait for people to make suggestions. I mean, that one is not on the board currently. But always I ask everybody that uses our gear, or even if they don't and just want gear made. I mean, if we get several people asking for a particular thing, that's a great thing about making our product under one roof. I mean, you don't understand how many times people say, "Oh, if it'd be great if you just had an extra tapped hole here." And I go out to Kevin. I'm like, "Hey, on next run, add these holes, or adapt this bracket, or if it makes sense, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's add that in." We're not buying in bulk overseas, we're running parts through our shop constantly, so it's as easy as hearing an idea or an alteration and talking to Avery or Kevin and saying, "Hey, can we change this? It makes sense to me." Just making another mill cut or whatever, or adapting certain things and keep tweaking it in. I mean, like I said, 90% of what we make is based off of feedback from customers. So the more we get that, the more you'll see in our products.
Right. And like in a lot of ways, like you're saying, it's the Tesla model, where Tesla doesn't really have model years. They just constantly evolve the product over time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we don't have year models. We get enough requests. I mean, software is easy. Firmware is easy in the sense that, it's not changing tooling, and we don't hold inventory on software, right? So if we have 500 of something on the shelf, obviously, unless it's a major requested change, we wait until that 500 stocks out, and then we change it on the next batch. But software requests, those get changed on the fly. I mean, a lot of times, especially when we're not in a major builds like we are right now, trying to get everything done for these new products, our guys are pretty much sitting around. I won't say just sitting around. They're always doing things, but they love it when a new request comes in for a new feature. Like, yeah, we can do that. And usually within a few days we're testing, and regression testing's a pain. Takes longer than it takes for them to make the change because it has to go through every platform. Mac, PC, iPad, now iPhone and Android. So any change has to go through a 2 to 3 day test on each platform to make sure. And every time they find a bug or something got broken because we changed something, it starts all over again. So that's the most painful part about having so many platforms. And yeah, so that's what takes longer than anything, is just making sure that what we put back out there actually works.
Ali wants to know the weight on the new controller. To me, it feels a little bit lighter than the Plus.
Yeah, grams maybe. It's thinner. It's a smaller controller, but not drastically. It is thinner. If you set them up side by side, you can see the difference. It's not. I think it's 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch slimmer.
So here's side by side. You can see it's thinner. It's definitely thinner, and to me it feels just ever so slightly lighter.
Well, yeah, we took some material out of the inside that wasn't needed. We kind of, everybody talks about we want it lightweight, but you still want it to feel like it's not going to break. So, it's got to be that magical thickness everywhere to where it feels solid in your hand, but yet light.
All right. Chris says, I'm coming over to film my self-tapes at your place. Well, come on, Chris. I've got a spare bedroom. You can hang out. Let's see here. Let's see. Grip Tip says, laughing. What is that? I don't know what he's laughing at. Dave, what are you laughing at? Stop laughing. Okay. Who makes better pulled pork? Eric or I'm assuming Jason Cross?
Yeah, he's wasting our time. He already knows the answer to this because he's had it. So I don't know. He's just.
Also, I know
he's trolling right now.
Controlling the narrative.
Well, he's going to be back in the office on Monday, so he'll have that to deal with.
Says Second Shooter Plus is 0.5 pounds. Second Shooter Pro is 7.9 ounces. So 0.1 ounce lighter. There you go.
Yeah, it's not much.
He's laughing at your face, your coasters.
Oh, I got more of them.
That's nice.
Out.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's great.
Toasters. I'm sitting on the roulette table right now. They just happened to be here, so I was entertaining myself.
Let's see here. So you said you have about 5 products that you're coming out. How far visionary are you thinking out? Or
probably just in the first quarter. I mean, right now we kind of know the need. We spent the last 3 or 4 months really, so I guess I'll give a little bit of back history. So when the market really started falling off roughly 2015, we didn't know how this market was going to go. And so I said we should probably shift gears. So we started looking at where things were growing or where we saw potential outside of our current industry. And that's where we came up with, the 360 photo stuff. And we got that actually from a customer. What had happened, how it all started with AutoCam 360 was we had a customer that bought, 3 Cinedrive systems, all kinds of it was like $30,000 or $40,000 worth of motion control gear. We're like, whoa, what are they doing? Because typically they buy one, a customer buys one system and maybe grows it a little bit over time, but it was probably one of the larger systems that we ever sold, and didn't know anything. Just out of the blue, I didn't even know that they had any interaction with our sales staff at all. They just placed this huge order and we filled it. And 6 months later, they wanted to return it. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why, And so I think it was Tim. I can't remember who reached out to him and asked why are you wanting to return it? You've had it for 6 months. Is this just some kind of big project where they wanted to get their job done and just return it? You don't know what's going on there. So come to find out, they were trying to put together a bunch of our components to build a 360 photo taking machine because they had 40,000 SKUs a year to do 360 photos of, and they were trying to automate it. I guess they took the job, at least this way I remember the story, not realizing, I guess maybe planning on doing it manually or through whatever means that they had at the time, and found out it was taking far too long to do 40,000 SKUs. So they're trying to use our system to build this. And so I think the deal I made with them was, and again, Tim can chime in here if I'm inaccurate because it's going back 4 or 5 years ago. I said, we'll let you return it at 50% of its value or what you paid for it, or apply, or maybe I told them, I can't remember if it was that deal, or I told them they could return it for store credit against me building them an AutoCAM machine, like what they were wanting, to begin with, but specifically for what they were doing. Either way, they agreed to it. They thought it was good. So we built the first AutoCAM, which was not called AutoCAM. It was just a machine. And it got me thinking with, way web stores are going, and a lot of 360 photos are really, there's Otery, and I think Mark Roberts had some kind of machine out there, but extremely expensive. I mean, $60,000 plus. And we kind of had all the right bits and pieces. We just needed to put together the right package. And so that's where we kind of neglected Kessler for 2 or 3 years. I mean, we were obviously still selling and supporting our product, but we didn't have a lot of design time in on the Kessler products during that, because we really thought AutoCAM was the way to go. And so we and the rest of the team put together what AutoCAM is today. And what we realized, and although we sold quite a few machines, we started realizing Kessler brand didn't have any weight in that industry. It was a whole completely different industry. So we ended up partnering with a studio, which was, I think, either the largest or the second largest 360 photo taking studio. And they end up buying in majority on that. And so we spun that off as a separate company. And Chris, which is where his heart was at, was more in that product and was very in tune with it, more so than what I was. And at that time too, I was seeing more of a future coming back into Kessler, and I had a lot of great ideas along with other people within the company and wanted to go more that route. So Chris is still very much a part of Kessler, but he's not on the book, so to speak. He's now CEO of AutoCAM and running that. We still manufacture all of their products and do, from a mechanical aspect, their engineering work currently. So, we're still part owners in the company, but they're the primary, and they're the ones kind of spearheading that project, which I feel much better about, because that industry, I didn't get it as much as I thought I got it. And so it needed a dedicated crew of people that were going to push that product forward. So we're going to do what we do good, and that's build parts and design things. And they're going to obviously give us the information needed based off of their feedback, as to how to build the products for them. So now, okay.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so now I'm back to Kessler as far as my primary now.
Right. Tell me about this Ascending Works Ray Rig.
Oh, it's great. We didn't have any play in that. That was, a product that they came up with that was wonderful, that works great with the Kill Shock. And so, and we're working on some other stuff with them now based off of their ideas. Is it great? And hopefully that works out. And if so, we'll be doing a lot of collaborative products with them. But that product, we don't have any hand in it. I mean, that's 100% them. We're going to probably offer it on our site because it works as a great accessory along with the Kill Shot.
Right. It's we're 2 hours in. I'm starting to feel the internet starting to freak out, and I don't want it to drop off before we've closed everything. So what stuff have what have we not covered? I'm feeling scatterbrained at the
kind of
moment.
went through at least most stuff, kind of where I got started, where we're at, what I think about the industry, second shooter pro.
Because I mean, I could chat for 4 hours, but I want to make sure that we get everything in. Because my brain is literally everywhere right now because of this internet thing.
Yeah, no, we can wrap it up if you want to do another one in the future, maybe around the 15th, if you want to, or after.
Oh yeah,
go over that kind of stuff, or anybody else has any
always.
questions before we sign off.
Who has some questions for Eric? And maybe we can get another lightning round going on in here. Oh, Phil smiling on the 15th.
Phil knows.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if there's other questions that I missed in here. What's for dinner? What do you
So, well, I got those A5 Wagyu steaks in, right?
Yep.
So the guys over at Crowd Cow sent over, they have this bison Wagyu hybrid. So they sent me over 2 of those. One I gave to Jason today at work, and I have another one thawed. I don't know what to expect. It doesn't look as pretty as A5 Wagyu as far as the marbling goes, but it'll be interesting to see.
Dave Donaldson was talking about that video we were talking about earlier. The guy who had a camera on a pole and tagged Kessler, and the camera was a motion control system, was on a motion control. Do you know how he did that?
It was an Insta360 on their 10-foot extendable carbon fiber pole mounted with a Manfrotto super clamp on our tilt platform on the second shooter. Yep, it's very simple. Fly it around at 360, and then when you're playing it back on a 2-dimensional screen, you just hit your focal points. You have a full 360 sphere, so it's like having a pan and tilt head essentially on the end of the pole.
Right. Tyler Johnson. Yep. Phil says, quick shout out to Eric for making the best Arca Swiss quick release on the market. This is true.
Hey,
it is the best.
Not trying to puff my chest, but I mean, those are great. I mean, yeah, we worked a lot on that thing to get it perfect. There's a lot going on in that.
There is.
to refrain from cussing, that was not fun. That one, there was a lot to get that thing to work as good as it does. Was not easy. Don't ever take one apart. It's like taking apart a clock.
I've never had to take one apart. That's
well, we tested them. I think Chris Allwine was our test engineer at the time, and he built this little, almost like a train, like a way a train wheel works. He just sat there and worked the levers and the mechanism, and he automated it. I think he got 80,000 some cycles before the little brass bushing piece on the front finally wore out. So 80,000 camera snaps is pretty good.
The only thing I ever had to do to one was lube it. Put a little bit of lube in there. It was the oldest one I had.
Plate if you got sand or something like that in there.
Sand, definitely.
And we build a loose tolerance on those parts just for that reason. But yeah, I mean, it's always a possibility that something can get in there. But usually just an air blower or something like that can take care of it.
Let's see. Okay, here's a loaded question for you here, Eric. What grill do you own?
You want me to list them all off? Literally, I have so many. Like,
Eric's a grill enthusiast.
I really am. The one I'm currently using is Camp Chef. Their digital smoker grill sear plate hybrid type thing. For doing some stuff, that's my favorite. I have the new commercial Bradley smoker. So for smoking, and also the Camp Chef smoker. I'm still a Weber guy at heart. I mean, it just depends. If it's burgers, I'm throwing it in burgers and brats. It's going to be on a Weber charcoal. I only have a gas grill because at our condo up on Lake Michigan, it's an association where they don't allow open flame. It is convenient. It's great for anything quick, but I'm not, although I do have a smoke box in it because I got to cheat, to get some kind of smoke flavoring in there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Camp Chef stuff, Blackstone. I've had so many right now. I think it's just the Weber lines, the Camp Chef stuff, and the Bradley stuff is what, that's what I'm currently using. I think there's some other out there that I've given up on.
And you sous vide, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I don't
what do you use for your? Well, yeah. What are you using for searing on your sous vide?
So either it depends on what like if it's Wagyu, just stainless steel. I don't even sous vide that because it melts so low. So on that Camp Chef, it has a 900 degree. So I have two different ways that I sear depending on what I'm going for. So I have a 900 degree sear box on that Camp Chef, but what I find to work best is I have a Lodge cast iron, just a disc, I guess you'd say, that I put in my pizza oven that I can get up to 1100 degrees.
Nice.
And because it's a pizza oven, I get top and bottom at the same time.
Yeah, it's super hot.
Super hot. And it just depends, like if I'm doing ribeye and they all kind of have their own characteristics. And I wouldn't say one's better than the other. But when I sous vide, I like to sous vide with some like rosemary, garlic, a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper. I don't try to go over heavy, but I just love the butter and rosemary and garlic, to accompany. But if it's something, a really high-end cut, I don't want that on there. I just want just the steak, maybe a little salt. That's it. Or soy. Soy.
Yeah. You like your soy. I'm a salt, pepper, and garlic powder is my favorite.
I don't do garlic powder. I usually do fresh garlic almost always and just try to, nothing wrong. I do garlic powder in rubs where I want it dry, but I like wet garlic if I'm sous vide. Just, I don't know. Again, personal preference. There's probably nothing wrong with either method.
Dave is impressed with your 1100 degrees.
Those pizza ovens hot. That Blackstone one, if you're looking for a really good proven I think they're only $350, $400. So the actual pizza stone rotates on a motor. So you're getting even cooking. My complaint is I also have a wood-fired pizza oven and we do pizza night here. It's like more of a group friend thing. So what we do is I make up a bunch of dough ahead of time and we have every type of topping that you can think of. I mean, I've done it with Vince and Carson up it was for Thanksgiving a couple years back. But it's great to just let everybody make their own pizza and everybody gets one slice. And we get as crazy. I mean, prosciutto, pistachio. Right. My favorite one for me personally is a roast beef giardiniera, which has some other stuff. And there was I did a Chinese chicken this last time. And everybody loved that one. I think that one won for the night. So, and I love Asian food. So I wanted to do an Asian pizza and I found some random recipes and I kind of combined a bunch of stuff. And I used to work at a Chinese restaurant when I was in high school. And I grew up with a Chinese family as close friends. And so I learned a lot, about cooking, Asian food. And so I imparted a lot of different other people's ideas of my own, and it turned out quite nice. It was really good.
Maybe a ramen pizza. So figure out how to make ramen noodles into a crust.
When I was searching, I saw people do. I didn't do it, but I mean that wouldn't be difficult. That's what's fun about pizza night. Then and when you get up to 1100 degrees, even if you par cook your dough first, like 2 minutes tops. I mean, maybe a minute and a half. It gets a good par cook. Bring it back up, sauce it, do whatever you want, throw it back in. It's another 2 minutes. So they come out so fast at that temperature. It's just fast food.
Yeah, pizza is the one thing that I missed most. I mean, we do on the keto diet. We do a pizza crust, but it's basically egg and mozzarella cheese, which doesn't suck on pizza. No, it's just more cheese.
Like making mozzarella crisp. Yeah.
It doesn't crisp. It's a real
Well,
problem.
try doing Parmesan.
Well,
So have you
definitely
ever done
Parmesan.
Parmesan chips before? You can make a Parmesan.
Oh yeah,
chip.
we made those. Those are delicious.
Right.
A little expensive because you're like, it's like potato chips. Reach Films wants to know barbecue ribs or pulled pork.
Asking me what's better. So I will challenge anybody on pulled pork, and anybody. Jason will tell you no, but I can tell you there's a lot of good competition around here. Again, this is my personal preference. For me, it's the best pork I've ever had. I've yet to eat a pulled pork sandwich any better than what I do. For me, but I definitely would be a contender on the pulled pork. My ribs are good. Would I go into competition with them? No. I mean, I think there's guys doing it better around here than me, but I do a pretty good rib. I think you wouldn't be mad to eat it, but I focused more on pulled pork, and I've been doing that for many years, and I've gotten down to where I haven't heard a complaint in a long time. I mean, all I hear is, man, you knocked that out of the park with a slaw. I do a beer mustard slaw on top of it. Yeah, I got that one pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's the best in the world, but I guarantee you wouldn't say that it was anything less than a 9.5.
I tend to cheat a bit on my pulled pork because I shred it and then I put the shreds into a pan with a sauce that I reduce down at really high heat. And mix it really rapidly so everything gets just like infused with flavor. It's kind of a cheat.
No, it's not. So what I do after I pull, I do my rub, which I've worked on for years, and I got that nailed down. And I get this beautiful bark, and I call it meat candy, right? Because there's a lot of turbinado sugar in it and stuff like that. The meat's not sweet, but the bark definitely has like a burnt sugar along with all the other stuff that I put into it. And I break that up. So it's almost like self-spice. But then what I do is after I pull it, I sprinkle it with the rub, and then I do a 50-50 mix of apple cider vinegar and apple juice. And I just do a drizzle over the meat and toss it back in that just to make sure it's moist. So it's a lot of, and I only smoke over apple wood, at least when I come to pork, when it comes to pork.
Ketchup or salsa?
Mustard.
Damn, you're from Indiana. Let's see here. Love it. Lasagna pizza. That's just Chicago style pizza.
It's not. No, I know Chicago. I'm right next door to Chicago. Yeah, it's more than lasagna. It's different than lasagna, but yeah, similar. It's deep.
Okay, this is a tough one. Will a $10,000 Cinedrive still be worth the investment July 16th for heavier payloads and weather resistance?
Again, I will say this: July 16th will fit in between Cinedrive and second shooter line of product. It just depends on what you're going for. I mean, if you're throwing a 25-pound rig, Cinedrive is still going to be the way to go. And I don't mind talking about this. Cinedrive is getting a major revamp this year too. Not so much from the physical hardware, although that will be a second stage. But we are coming out with a new brain for Cinedrive this year. It's well into the production type stages, I know. So that's not a dead product. That one we're going after this, the 15th. We can. I mean, Avery's already got that about ready to go. So we're just not as excited about it because it's. I don't want to say it's new. It's got a lot of great new stuff, but it's not as exciting because it's more kind of like Second Shooter Pro. It's a vast improvement on an existing product as to where this is. The 15th is a whole new thing. So I think that's what's making, at least for me, more exciting.
Does anybody have any last questions for Eric here as we kind of wrap this bad boy up? This has been fun. Do you have any questions that we didn't cover, Eric?
Nothing that sticks out currently.
Make sure. July 15th. You remember that. Second Shooter Pro is available for order now, correct?
Yeah, they can pre-order it. Like I said, if you really want it right away, under the conditions that the app is not released yet and the packaging, I mean, we can wrap it in bubble wrap and make sure it gets to you safely. And the rest of the system, well, if you buy a full system, it'll come in proper packaging. We're waiting for just the controller packaging. So we just gave ourselves the grace period of by June 10th that it will ship.
Nope.
If you
July 10th.
want it, yeah. So if you need it right away, we can definitely ship it right now.
And Jim singing your praises, won't use anything else.
Jim, good to see you. Well, I see his picture anyhow.
Jim's a solid
I love
dude.
Jim. It's been a while, a couple years, I think.
Oh yeah. Dave, boxers briefs or cellophane?
Boxer briefs.
There you go. As you get older, you kind of want a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I run boxer briefs.
He says he'll stop trolling now.
No, that's fine. It's a valid question. It's very important.
It is. People need to understand there are options in the world.
There are.
It's just like there's briefs, there are Cinedrive boxers, and then there's boxer briefs.
That's right.
Oh, my dog is panicking now. Okay, Eric, I think we've had a pretty fantastic live stream, 2.5 hours, basically. Yeah. You and I have been on a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do this again, probably around July 15th. And we probably should do one day just kind of a grilling one. Just have we live stream by our grills. And
yeah. Jason's been talking about wanting to do kind of like something along that line, more of a cooking show. I mean, we have so many guys at Kessler. You remember, well, Nate, Nate competes.
Yep. Oh, I know Nate.
Jason Woodford, all those guys. I mean, they're, it's a pretty big deal around here. We love doing it, and a lot of talent when it comes to cooking.
A cooking show has been in the works here for a long time. It's just been on hiatus for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I keep teasing it, but I think it's time to come back now. I just
like competitions because nobody loses at a cooking competition.
I can't compete with anybody because there's no one that lives around me. No one. There's I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Well, cook food, throw it out there to the wildlife, and see what they eat the most of, and then you'll know what's good.
Well, yeah, it'll be pigs or hogs, coyotes, or foxes. Or vultures. I mean, you never know. Well, Eric, sir, thank you so much for being on this live.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for sharing everything.
That had to suffer through listening to me for 2 hours. My wife can't handle that.
Your wife was like, "Thank you so much for taking."
Oh, yeah, she's out shopping with my daughter right now. She's like, "Wow, great!
Awesome.
Scott's got you for a couple hours. I get to go." But and she. So I asked her. I said, what should I wear for, a shirt? She goes, wear your black Kessler shirt. I'm like, oh yeah, good point. To represent. She goes, no, it's black. It hides your dad bod. That's what I get.
I have lost most of my dad. Well, no, that's not true. I still got a lot of dad bod left, but yeah, the slimming look of the black shirts. I don't wear the black shirts. You don't have a beard, so the beard drift kind of thing really. You can't grow one?
No. I got too much Indian blood in me, man. My grandmother was Cherokee, and so, Indian people don't grow hair. I'm happy I got this. I got that from the German side, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's all. I can't grow hair anywhere else except for here, so I got to grow it here. So, again, thanks so much for being on here. Thanks for everything that you've done in the industry and just, for being a great friend out there. Everybody loves you. I get it. Yeah. I feel like Master the Motion, everyone is from Austin. Do a cooking contest with Jim Shields. Interesting. Malia says,
bye, Malia.
Eric. Bye, Malia. let's see. But thanks so much for being on here. And I'm going to drop you down here real quick and close it out. Don't disconnect. I will be right back to you here in just one moment. As always, if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. Try to read and respond to each and every one, even if it's just to say thanks. Again, thanks so much for Eric joining us and sharing everything that I mean, there's some teasers out there of what's coming. July 15th, that's coming soon. Also, the Second Shooter Pro is available for pre-order now. And as always, as I like to leave it, don't let your passions center around your life. Let your life center around your passions. That's right. See ya. Ending the broadcast.